welcome to NAPOD, where we provide NA speaker meetings and workshops in a podcast. We are an ad-free podcast, and if you enjoy listening, please help us to be self-supporting by visiting napod.xyz, look for the donate link, and drop $1 or $2 in the virtual basket. If you're also in AA or have friends that are, please tell them about our other podcast, Sobercast. Sobercast features AA speakers and workshops in the same format as NAPOD. We upload a new speaker every day, and it's easy to subscribe by searching for Sobercast, that's 2 words, on any podcast player app, or go to Sobercast.com. Enjoy the podcast, and thanks for listening.
I'm a grateful addict named Clarice. I thank God for being in my right mind and having a willingness to participate in my recovery. I want to thank the convention committee for asking me, and I want to thank all of y'all for showing up. I've never liked doing opening of conventions because most people come on Saturday, but it's a whole lot of folks. It's a whole lot of folks here, and it's really good to see y'all. I'm telling you, good to see y'all. I want to thank my friends for coming, and I want to thank my husband for being here to support me and bringing me. He's working on 24 hours of no sleep. He went to work and then worked overtime, and I appreciate his efforts in taking care of our family. I really do appreciate his efforts, and I don't want to go over that with a minimum of concern. I really don't. And, recovery is a gift, and like with any other kind of gift, if you don't open it up, then you ain't got a clue, And I want to talk about don't use no matter what. I want to try to do the last 3 years of my life in a timely fashion so that my brother can get up here. But I want to talk about, first of all, preparing myself through the process. When I came to Narcotics Anonymous, I had 8 years and 2 months clean. So what I knew how to do was stop and stay stopped. I knew how to do that, right? And I had the spiritual principle of prayer. That was about it as it applied to the steps or even knowledge of the steps. So I was rick-roaring out of my mind. And I actually came to Narcotics Anonymous through service work. Outside of the fellowship, though, I was working in a program in a hospital that were trying to deal with women that were addicted and carrying babies so that these babies would not be born addicted to drugs. Because I knew somehow in my heart I had to give back to the folks that were just like me. So I was giving back on the outside of Narcotics Anonymous, fooled around and came to a women's meeting because of some of these women that I was actually mentoring and probably sponsoring, but they didn't call it that, in this program outside of Narcotics Anonymous. And I fooled around in a women's meeting, and that's when I actually found out what was going on with Narcotics Anonymous. I had tried a meeting in the other fellowship because I got drunk and fell down waiting on the cop man to get there. So, I could qualify, but the deal is I was real clear through the shooting of heroin that I was a drug addict, and I know that alcohol is a drug, so I was okay to be right here and get a sponsor right here and do what I needed to do right here. I don't feel like I need to be deep undercover in another fellowship trying to pretend that I didn't do what I did to get what I got. So I'm real okay with all of y'all. You know what I mean? Now I need to tell y'all that when I first got here, I was scared of y'all, right? Because if y'all was anything like me, there was going to be a problem. Right? Because at the end of my road, I know they had to be saying, shoot low, because she might be crawling. Right? At the end, I had become so defective through the using of drugs, because my goals and aspirations were not to be a mainline heroin user when I was a little girl. Those were not my goals and aspirations. But the deal is, I believe that the God of my understanding allowed me to use drugs to keep me from committing suicide. I was in excruciating pain as a child, and I attempted suicide long before the age of accountability. You're accountable for your actions at 16 years old. At 15, I was in such emotional pain that I was suicidal and attempted suicide. Attempted suicide based on a relationship that had gone bad with a man. Now, I need to tell y'all that at some point in time in my life, men were the God of my understanding. I need to tell y'all that it ain't like that. That ain't my story today. But that was, in fact and indeed, my story at one time and at a young age. Now, I had been looking for love in all the wrong places, all the wrong faces. I did not feel accepted by my mother or father because they got divorced when I was very young. They brought me here and dropped me off on the planet. And I was swollen about that. So I'm operating in anger, I'm operating in rejection, I'm operating in abandonment. I felt different because my heritage is mixed. I was too dark for white folks and too light for black folks, and so I felt different. I felt like an outcast, and I felt like I was outside of some shit. So when I showed up in a room, all kind of whispering and shit started happening. Though Caucasian people were not that afraid of me because they could actually halfway identify and relate to me because I just looked a whole lot like them with a tan. So they didn't seem to object to me too much. But I need to tell you that my sisters, my brown-skinned sisters, had a problem. And that problem became my problem because I took everything personal. I am real emotional. I am all over the place. I have been through some stuff, and when all the stuff broke loose in my life, I said to myself, there must be some work God got for me to do. And then I got a call from the capital area. I am grateful that I ain't got to microwave nothing when it comes to telling my story. God keeps my story new and fresh every day. It reminds me of why I'm here. He reminds me of why the steps are my survival kit. And what I know about the steps to Narcotics Anonymous, if you don't work the steps, they will work you. Now, I've been about the business of trying not to use one day at a time, sometimes 1 hour at a time, y'all, for 21 years. I need to say that we do recover from the mess that we make of our lives, and then we got to get a life. And then we got to show up in our own lives and in the lives of other people. There are so many times that I'm called on to do things that ain't even Narcotics Anonymous related. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful because that means that the God of my understanding gave me something that I can give away through these rooms, you know, first and foremost. Because I do believe that this is my, the groundwork that I was really able to build my life on. I spent a whole lot of time in here talking about, you know, my behaviors, my defects of character. Because see, how I became entirely ready was that I had to come in here and tell y'all exactly what they were. That's how I became entirely ready. The God of my understanding wouldn't allow me just to do the work, figure out what it was, and then keep it to myself. It wasn't like that. It ain't no ancient Chinese secret. I had to come in here and talk about them one by one by one by one. Now, I need to tell y'all that I fall short, so I have shortcomings. But I need to tell y'all I am no longer a walking defect. I have done some work on myself, and I spent a whole lot of time preparing to be my husband's wife. Right? Now, y'all done heard me say, I'm waiting on the man that God sends. And if the man that God has for me is not born, he can take some mud and make me one just like he made the rest of them. Right? So when my husband came along, I was checking him out. You know, I look, and I'm grateful because, and you know, I've said this before, and you know, people have thought me strange, and you know, I'm past the point where I'm all that sensitive and self-centered. Right? God allowed me to look on my husband's heart the first time I saw him. Now, he had seen me before I actually saw him. He had seen me, but I wasn't going to meetings about no man. I was going to meetings to check my head in. I had long ago stopped going to meetings, dressing it up and rolling it past them slow. I had long ago stopped that. Well, see, that's how I did it before I started using, and when I started using. My game was blazing, sweet begging, and mellow bionics. So I dressed it up and rolled it past them slowly. Men were my audience and women were the competition, and that's how it was. Now, it's not like that today. Through the steps. I got women in my life that I love and respect, and they love and respect me. I got men in my life I ain't got to sleep with. They love and respect me. So I got respect across the board, and I got respect for myself. Through the steps, I learned how to amend my behavior, change my behavior, because y'all told me I was going to have to change. Y'all told me I was going to have to change. So I got in here and started through the step process and having a sponsor and having sponsees and having women that were following my lead I had to do something different. Because I had to set an example in my own life, in the lives of my daughters. I got 5 daughters. I got 16 grandchildren. And I got a son. So it was most necessary. Now I got down off a bar stool and my people said, you know, where you going? I said, home, because I got to raise these kids. Now I got 6 children by 6 different men. I had not gotten it right. But I need to tell y'all that God sent me a man that was willing to take me and 6 kids that he didn't have the pleasure of making, right? And takes care of them superbly. So then a hoe can become a housewife. Can I say that? Can I say that? Can I say that? My husband don't live in my past. My husband don't live in my past. My husband don't live in my past. He believes that any man that crossed my path and then snatched me up is his loss, is my husband's gain, and that's how he see that. My husband loves and adores me, and I love and adore him. I asked God for a man that loved and adored me, because I needed to be loved and adored. I'm telling y'all, I was so void of love and anything that was even akin to that, that I need to be loved and adored. In case the love got shaky, he was still adoring me until he could flip it back over and learn how to love me again based on some behavior. I needed to be loved and adored. That's what I needed. My father was living in another state. My brother was my mother's love child, and I just got here about hook, crook, or magic. And I was a burden. My mother needed my brother to trap my father. So wonder how I got to manipulating and shit. But watching her, I was taught by the best. I was taught by the best. Now I'm going to bring it up some. From my husband and being married and thanking God for the kind of support that I got in my life. Because my feelings ain't facts, but I tell y'all they roll up over me sometimes like a wave rolling up over a beach. And I just have to hold on. And don't use no matter what. Because that's really what I want to talk about. Don't use no matter what. I want to talk about that. Now I'm in this process today surviving my emotions. Because I use based on how I felt. I don't know what y'all was using about. But I use based on how I felt. And I need to tell you that I have learned to identify my feelings. If you can't beat them, join them, and then separate them, sort them out, figure out why you feeling the way that you're feeling. So I am grateful for the step process, for sponsorship, for thinking, for saying you was just fine, what just happened, Clarice, being able to sort that stuff out, right? I am grateful for my relationship with the God of my understanding. I'm telling y'all that has been, thank you, that has been the most important relationship, because I'm telling you that's the one that gets me through every time. Every time. I had surgery on my neck 2 years ago. My husband had surgery on his knee before I had surgery on my neck. So his doctor was happy to supply him with drugs. So his prescription, now I had to prop my head up against the wall just to keep it up. The average head weighs 12 pounds and I got 3 bad discs in my neck. So I had to prop my head up against the wall to sit up. I couldn't drive, couldn't turn my head because I was in excruciating pain all down my neck, all down my shoulders, and all down my right arm. So his medicine was on the night table. And the disease of addiction said his medicine is on the night table. So I took the pill out of the bottle, and I immediately, now I'm famous for telling on myself. You know what I mean? Because we sick is our secrets. And that stinking thinking, it dies in the light of exposure. So I'm famous for telling on myself. If you become a part of my story, I'm still to tell on you too, because I don't keep no secret. Don't tell me nothing is no secret. You can tell me I need to talk to you in confidence. Don't tell me nothing is no secret, because it ain't going to be no secret, and you need not to tell me. And I'm making this a public service announcement. Don't tell me no secrets. Don't tell me no secrets, because I'm as sick as your secrets, and I'm real clear about that. I'm as sick as yours, and I'm as sick as mine, and I ain't got no secrets. I done told everybody somebody everything about me. I do not have no secrets. Now, I may not have told everything to one person, but I done told everything to somebody. Y'all better believe that, because I'm really living wholly free in the present. I am absolutely free to be who I am. And that ain't got to be perfect. I got to show up and do the very best that I can. To the best of Clarice's ability. To the best of my ability. So, I lost my thought. Yes. It'll come back. It'll come back, because I'm telling the truth. Yes, the medicine on the night table. That's right. Thank you, darling. So I take the pill and I go downstairs and I say to him, don't you know the disease told me to take your medicine? He said, well, you're in pain, take it. I don't mind. I said, brother, your name is on this medicine bottle. I can't take this medicine. Now, I hadn't had surgery yet. And see, the thing about me, I try not to take no whole lot of medicine, really, for real. Because my thinking is that a prescription is a note from the doctor to the pharmacist. I got mine and you get yours. So my grandmother raised me taking herbs and stuff, and I'm really okay with that. I have found in the herb kingdom antibiotics. I found the things that I need, and they seem to work for me. So I'm going to work with that. Okay, so now I finally have surgery on my neck. So the disease tells me that I could take the drugs that the doctor gave me. Now, I disclosed to the surgeon that I was a recovering addict. I disclosed to all my doctors, the dentists, whoever, because I was put out of the hospital in 1982, having had morphine shots in my behind because I had a car accident. And when I got out the hospital, I was down at Projects Coppin. Now, I had been clean for 3 years, sheer willpower, before I had this automobile accident, and I found myself down in the projects at the cop man's house. So I disclosed to the doctors, because they ain't going to release me from the hospital not another time addicted to nothing. It's not going to happen. So if you tell them you're an addict, they be trying to give you some stuff that's non-narcotic. They don't even try to take you to nothing that's narcotic. Anything that got cane, Novocaine, anything got cane on the end of it, miss me with it. Miss me with anything that got cane on the end of it, really. You know. So I disclosed to this doctor, you know, that I was a recovering person. And he needed to know that. Okay, so he discloses to the anesthesiologist that I'm a recovering person. I don't know what he got twisted, but he ultimately gave me so daggone much anesthesia that I ended up having to go back to the emergency room because I was sick as a dog. This man had over-medicated me. And now, the good news is that I used for more than 20 years, so he didn't kill me, but I was near death because he ain't understood that I might have been clean for 20 years. He could put me to sleep probably like Tom, Dick, or Harry, but he don't know that, like John Q. Public. He don't know that, so he over-anesthetizes me, and I end up getting sick from the anesthesia. But the deal is now I got an excuse, right, and a reason. A reason and an excuse. Now, excuses are tools used by incompetent individuals to build monuments to nothing. That's what an excuse is. All right? I'm going to say that again. Okay. Excuses are tools used by incompetent individuals to build monuments to nothing. But it happens. So now I got an excuse and a reason to get some medicine from these doctors. No, I chose not to. I took the medication for 2 days. It was making my stomach hurt. Now, y'all need to know I was a drugstore junkie long before I took to the street. Oh, yes. Well, I had a PDR. I had a physician's desk reference so that I knew what to go to the doctors and tell him, you know, in the past the doctor gave me this and it worked. Save him some trouble and work. And I could be as high as I wanted to be. Didn't have to be hooking and crooking, running around, none of the rest of that. Okay. So, I took the medication as prescribed, y'all. I need to say that. Because don't use no matter what. You understand? If I could tolerate the pain, and I say I ain't suggesting that you don't take medication for pain. I'm not suggesting that, because today we can take medication for pain. We can take medication for whatever we need to take medication for, but we don't want to take 5 if the prescriptions say take 2, because we use it. You're changing your clean date. Now, if you believe that you need more medication than the doctor has prescribed, go back to the doctor and tell him, look, when I take them 2 that you prescribed, they are not affecting no kind of change with this pain. It ain't taking the edge off, and I am still in excruciating pain, and let him up the prescription. the dosage. Don't you up it, because if you up it, you done change your clean date, I'm telling you. And those, you know, and it may seem simple, and those technicalities make the difference between whether disease is running our life or whether we're doing what we need to do as it applies to self-care and in our own best interest. Because we can sabotage our own recovery with a reason or an excuse if we're not careful. Our disease does not know the difference between street drugs and prescription drugs. It does not. It does not. Our basic text says so. If the basic text says, and that's our collective experience as addicts, that our disease don't know the difference, our disease don't know the difference, and guess what? I ain't trying to test a theory. I'm just going to go with that. Okay, now I need to tell y'all, because I'm going to bring it up, and I'm talking about don't use. I'm going to bring it up. I had a sponsee, loved her dearly, we shared the same birthday. And I started out sponsoring this young woman. We became friends, and the girl was like a sister to me. She lived with the virus, and she was diagnosed with cancer of the lymph nodes about 8 months ago now. She's been gone for about 30 days. She passed away. I want y'all to know that that rocked my world. I want y'all to know that that rocked my world. My relationship with my sister, I have one biological sister, is very strained. It's strained, it's very strange. And when I was younger, I was very close to my sister. I was able to gain this type of closeness that I needed in a sister with this young woman that passed away. I am 10 years her senior, and I never thought I was going to outlive this young woman. The self-centeredness came in when I sat by her bed and held her hand after she just laid there and took her last breath. She died in peace. She died serving God. The last thing she did was to share at an anniversary for a meeting in Narcotics Anonymous. That was her last act of service to this fellowship. It was an honor and a pleasure to be her sponsor. And as I sat there by the bed and held her hand, the self-centeredness, I said to her, girl, you left me here to deal with all this shit by myself. And so I felt that because that's what I was feeling. And I'm more God-centered than I am self-centered, but I ain't there. And that's just where I was right then and right there. And then it came in that she was in a better place, and I was jealous. Huh? So I went there, and then it got to physically she's not here, but spiritually anything that was is. And my granddaughter, who's 10 years old, wrote me a letter and told me that when I'm missing her, all I got to do is talk to her like I talk to God when I'm praying. I am grateful for the spiritual principles that I've invested in my grandchildren, that they can holler back at their grandmother in my time of need. This baby has gone with me to meetings. So she really understood. She was sharing with understanding. She was sponsoring me right about then, you know. So no, y'all, I didn't use over that. And I'm telling you, I was feeling some kind of way. In my relationship with my mother, and I'm going to say this and then I'm going to sit down. My relationship with my mother has always been strange, like I originally said. And my mother was in the hospital. She has the end stages of emphysema. And she has smoked and drank all these years, She's got a smoke cessation patch that she's using right now. And how I feel in my mother's presence is like I'm standing on one foot, and then I get in her presence, she kicks the other one from underneath me. And I've always felt like that. Now, people that have a loving and caring and beautiful relationship with their mother, they're not going to get this. They're not going to get this. Because if it ain't your experience, it ain't your experience. And I ain't kicking no dirt on my mother. I'm talking about how it is, because I'm talking about the shit that had me using. And I'm talking about what I'm one day at a time. I'm not never going to use no more. One day at a time. But I'm talking about feelings. And I'm talking about experience and feelings that at one point in time I would have been using. And it's the same feelings on a different day. And I'm talking about through the process of Narcotics Anonymous step worker sponsor and support. that I don't have to use based on what I'm feeling one day at a time. And feelings are not facts. But the deal is, they need to be examined. They need to be examined. Because I use based on how I felt. So now, I'm going to see about a friend and seeing about this child that DIFAS had placed in their home. And I have in the past, doing stuff that is not Narcotics Anonymous related, have been a liaison between families and the Division of Youth and Family Services. I understand the dynamics. Now, why, I can't tell you. That's just how it has been. So I'm helping out with this young girl. My mother's in the hospital. Now, I ain't sitting by the phone waiting for my mother to call me. My mother said the day before, she told me she could leave anytime after 10 o'clock. I did not hear that. Now, my mother's famous for saying she said something, didn't say it. And my mother's always right. And she is never wrong. And it's got to be hard to be always be right. But anyhow, I didn't hear this. So now I got to go. I got to go 14 miles, 7 down to get her clothes, and because she went to the hospital by ambulance. So I got to go 14 miles. I got to go 7 down to get her clothes and 7 back. I get halfway to 7 coming back and realized my sister called me and told me that I had left my mother's clothes. I had to turn around and go back. Okay. Now, rush hour traffic starts at 2:30 and don't end about 7:15, 7:30. I don't know what part of the country y'all in, but up where I live, that's how it is. So it starts about 2:30, and it runs until about 7:15 or 7:30. You just in it. The highways in New Jersey is overcrowded. It is crazy, right? And people driving like damn fools. So now I got to go back and get this lady's clothes, and then I got to go to the hospital, and the parking deck is crazy. So now I got to park illegally to go upstairs to take this lady her clothes, and she swole. Right? Now this ain't unusual. This is not unusual because she ain't never happy if I'm in her presence unless I got a fistful of dollars and I'm wrestling her to the ground, shoving them in her pocket. Other than that, she is not a happy camper to see me. When I call, she's bored to tears and I'm on the other end of the phone when I'm calling to inquire about her health. But I still got to show up because she gave me life. And when I give an account of myself before the God of my understanding, I need to be her daughter whether she was my mother or not. She's going to have to work her business out. She's going to have to work her business out with God, and I'm hoping that some chapters can be added to her life, and that's what she's going to begin to do before she meets the God of her understanding. But y'all told me I got a responsibility, y'all told me that I got to change, and y'all told me I got to show up. Now I need to tell y'all, in view of all the pain that this shit causes me, my mother can do some stuff can't nobody else do to me. Because she is my mother, she can get some stuff off y'all better not even think about trying. Because she is my mother. And if nothing else, she gave me life. You understand? If nothing else. And I'm sure the abortion clinic was open. You understand? So she gave me life. With my father, I have been unsupported. My father cussed me out and asked me out of his house because I wouldn't allow him to verbally abuse me. And I looked him in the face and said, now I know why Mama left you. So I feel like a mother and a fatherless child a whole lot of days. I'm a difficult personality. I feel unloved and uncared for a whole lot of days. Now that's part of my disease that I'm working on. Because that kind of stuff just it really dies hard and it don't go away easily when you have felt like you're uncared for, unloved, unsupported in life. It don't go away easy. But one day at a time, y'all, it has gotten better. Because recovery don't get no easier, but it gets better in the areas, them deep areas that you used about. It don't get no easy, but it do get better. We do recover from the mess that we make of our lives. It gets better. So where I find myself at today is my 88-year-old grandmother lives with my mother. And we really need to show up and take care of my grandmother and my mother. Now, my brother chaired 2 meetings, and it was crazy, because he chaired the meetings under the influence of marijuana. He looked like Bruce Lee because his eyes is slits. Now, he's been living in Colorado for 20 years, so he's out there looping. He don't know what my experience has been with his mother. And I told him, I said, I'm not going to keep walking up in here and this lady treating me any kind of way, and then I got to come and be of service. I don't know. Maybe I'm going to have to serve some other kind of way. But I don't know why I got to keep being kicked or stabbed in the heart or whatever's got to go on. Now, I had a few days rest, and so I could show up. And if it gets thick and it gets stupid, I'm just going to have to say, okay, I see y'all. I see y'all. Because I really need not put myself in the position to be kicked around emotionally and then find myself somewhere using. Now, I don't feel like using, but I'm telling you, when I'm in that stuff, it is so painful. See, it'd be different if I didn't know my mother and if I had been adopted and all that stuff. If my mother died when I was a baby, died in childbirth, right? And I'm 54 years old, right? But the little girl that lives here, because she's alive and well, she's here. I need y'all to, she ain't 54, right? She's not 54, right? Okay. Now, I've learned how to mother her, nurture her, love her, and care for her, and tell her I'm not going to put us in no more positions where we're doing self-destructive stuff, where I'm putting her in a position of danger and self-destructive behaviors and that kind of stuff, right? But still, some part of me would like to be recognized, honored, and appreciated, and loved and cared for by my mother, by my birth mother. It is a difficult thing to stand in your mother's presence. She is alive, but she's dead to you. That is most difficult. I don't know, you know. And like I said, a danger experience, you ain't got a damn clue what I'm talking about. And I don't want it to be your experience. That's not what I'm saying, because that's some folks' experience up in here. That's my experience. That's my experience. I am hoping that my mother will find her way clear to not be so angry and whatever else is going on with her. But the last chapters that she writes in her life will be about love and peace and tolerance and consideration and those things that you all have taught me that make me a better human being. Most of the time. So if she stops smoking and is able to do this, she could add some chapters to her life. She's at the end stages. She had a heart procedure, and there's no blockage in her heart that's causing her not to be able to breathe. People like us that are addicts, that smoke, drink, whatever, you know, there's surgery that she could have that they could cut off the top of her lobes of her lungs that would allow the rest of the lung that's okay to operate. But when you smoke, they ain't going to get no smoker or no lungs because they scared that you're going to take some perfectly good lungs and turn them into the same lungs that you already had. And the disease of addiction has us doing shit like that. So I'm praying for my mother because that's really all I can do. I don't have no control over my mother. I am powerless as to what she will do. I bought her a smoke cessation kit. I show up. I go to the store. I do what I can do. But it is painful to show up to do what I got to do when there's no gratitude and no appreciation. And I refuse to use. I didn't use based on how other people felt about me. I use based on how I felt about myself. I need to tell y'all that I love and care for myself today. Because if I didn't, first of all, I wouldn't have showed up down here. I love my mother and my father, but it's difficult. I haven't spoke to my father in a couple of years since he put me out of his house and I had to go stay at the Hampton Inn on a family vacation with my children and we went to see him. My children went to pay homage to him because they didn't know him from a can of spray paint. And my aunt had died, and so he allowed us in his space. Because they had wanted to go before, and he lost his mind when I suggested that his grandchildren were willing to travel to come see him and see where they came from. He lost his mind and was howling and screaming on the phone. And when his sister passed away, we needed to attend the funeral. So it was okay. And so my father owes me an apology. He owes me an apology. And so I haven't talked to him. My sister said he asked about me. But if my father does not apologize to me, then I probably won't be back in his presence until I hear that I need to attend his funeral or whatever it is. Because where's the certainty in that if I'm in his presence again and go to visit, that he won't put me out again? Now, he said get out and don't come back. So I got out, stayed at the Hampton Inn, went back for my children and my husband. Then I haven't been back. I haven't called him. And I'm one of the few children he had that was willing to call and be in touch with him. I didn't touch because he owes me an apology. Because if I have to apologize and make amends to folks when I act less than, what I should, then I don't see no reason why he shouldn't have to apologize to me. Now, I love him and I pray for him. But if you don't teach people how to treat you, they'll treat you any kind of damn way. And I just ain't her. I'm sorry. I done came too far in the process. And when I'm wrong, I apologize. There are some people that I would like to like them, but their behavior precludes me from being able to do so. And I'm just not taking no crap off nobody today. I'm really not. If I didn't order shit, I'm not gonna eat shit. And the deal is I ain't trying to shovel none down nobody's throat either. I'm really not. 9 times out of 10, if I act up, I have been provoked, and that's not no excuse. Because a lot of days I am being talked to any kind of way, and I choose to ignore it. But when I've had all that I could take, then you subject to get ripped out the frame. When I've had all that I could take, and I got a limit. I don't know what it is about me that people mistake kindness for weakness. I don't know what it is about me. So the deal is that on the days that I can ignore it, I do, and on the days that I can't. But my sponsor told me, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to shut it down. My sponsor told me, if you got to rip them out the frame, rip them out the frame, and put them on your 8-step list. Don't use Clarice no matter what. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Please help us improve our ranking so others can find us by putting a review on Stitcher, iTunes, or your favorite podcast index. NAPOD is ad-free thanks to the folks supporting the show with $1 or more per month. If you enjoy listening, you can join them by going to napod.xyz and looking for the donate link. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.